Hey everybody, it's Frozen with Outdoor Adventures, and thanks for joining me. Today I'm finally going to give the review of the Dream Hammock Darien. Now first of all, Dream Hammock is not a big box company. They are a small cottage vendor located in Ohio. And cottage vendors, from my experience, have been awesome. I've never had a problem with a bad cottage vendor. In fact, they are way better, or seem to be way better, at least for me in my experience, than your big name brands. They offer way better quality and way better customer support. So let's talk about some of the things that Dream Hammock has to offer, and then we'll get into the actual review of the hammock. Not only does Dream Hammock have several different hammock models to choose from, but they allow you to completely customize a ton of aspects and features about your hammock. So let's get into some of those aspects and features now. For one thing, the major thing, they allow you to choose your hammock fabric. For me, I went with a 1.2 Robic XL. I was coming from a 1.1 material from Warbonnet, a Warbonnet Blackbird, in fact, and I really wanted something that was just a tad firmer. So bumping up from a 1.1 to a 1.2, we're talking about ounces per square yard when I say that number, it allowed me to get a firmer mattress, so to speak, and that's what I really ended up liking. Another thing I customized was the length of the hammock. I'm 5'6", and I chose a 10-foot hammock. I'd say anybody above 5'8" might want to consider an 11-foot hammock, or I believe on some models you can work with Dream Hammock and get a 10.5-foot hammock. The third thing I customized was my width. Now this fabric, I believe, goes up to, I want to say 64 or 66 inches. That's just the way the fabric is made. I chose to cut it down to about 61 to 60 inches. And for me, that's just what is comfortable for my choice of lay and for my height. So that really works out well for me. Another thing I customized was the stitching. They offer different color accents. I went with a blue stitch, I went with a blue ridgeline, and I went with a blue continuous loop on the ends of the hammock. Now, they do offer ridgeline organizers. They're okay, but I wanted something with deeper pockets, so I ended up going with just this simple Dutchware Gear ridgeline organizer. Like I said, you can also customize your suspension options. So what I did was I actually just ordered with continuous loops. I had a pair of Dutchware titanium cinch buckles laying around that were a bit lighter than the stock Dream Hammock cinch buckles, so I went with that. Now, if you're thinking about going with the Dutch titanium cinch buckles, just know that there is a low weight limit on there, so you have to be careful. I'm 150 on my heaviest day, and so these are just what works for me. The Darien model, which is the hammock that we're talking about, is asymmetrical. And what that means is that there is a dedicated place to put your head and feet, and they actually offer a custom option, which are pullouts, which I did opt to get, and I think this is a very, very good feature to have. And we're gonna go over that in just a second. But what it does, if we take these off, you can see that the hammock, it really isn't pulled out. And you can stretch the fabric out, but what happens is the bug net kind of gets on your face if you're stretched out a little bit too far. So the option to add the pullouts on these asymmetrical hammocks, I think, is a great option. I love it. I think this is one of the things that makes me so comfortable at night, and we're gonna get into the comfort aspect in just a bit. So if you choose to get the pullouts, you'll have one right here on the asym part, and then a little bit up from that, right where the zipper is, you'll have another pullout. For me, I opted just to cut that off and have my mother, who's great at sewing, add the stitch back into the zipper. And the reason why Dream Hammock does that, and you cannot ask them to remove it, so just FYI, it's actually a patent held by Hennessy Hammock, and they have the patent to only allow one pullout on the head and the foot end. So I opted to cut the second pullout out because it's completely useless in my opinion, and now I just have this one and that one. Took a little bit effort, but it looks a heck of a lot better. Now, if you ever don't want to use the pullouts, you can just simply remove the shock cord from the pullout. If you do in fact order the pullouts, this is what you'll get. I modified my shock cord a little bit here to make it better for my type of hammock. And I think for the most part, this is what you're gonna wanna do. Try it out. If the stock option doesn't work for you, maybe consider my idea. But you get a loop on one end and you get a loop on the other end. I recommend you untie this loop if you're only using one pull out, and you put a cord lock over top of the middle of the shock cord, and then use this little loop right here, which you can adjust up and down to make it tighter or looser, how you see fit, and just keep that one loop. This loop goes down to your tent stake. This loop goes to your hammock, the one with the cord lock. It would allow you to take that loop end, and if you really, really wanted it pulled out a lot, you could take it and really just stretch that out. Or if you didn't want to have such a pulled out hammock, you could really just take that back and make it nice and loose. That way you don't have to bring 2 additional stakes to pull out your hammock. So how's the comfort on the hammock? This is where this product really shines. So first, let me talk about just lounging around and sitting in the hammock. You can easily just lounge around at camp and sit in the hammock. There's no issues. I originally thought that this shock cord right here would kind of get in the way of my feet, but it's right here. Even if I move the whole way over, it's still on a diagonal to where my tarp guy line would be. And so it really doesn't get in the way. So I just wanted to cover that first in case that is a concern, because it was an honest concern of mine coming from a war bonnet blackbird, where the attachment point was on the bug net and it was easily removable. If it does get in your way, like I said, you could easily just take the shock cord out and hook it on whenever you go to bed, and it's fine. So as far as comfort in sleeping in the hammock, I cannot stress enough how great of a sleep that I can get. I think it has to do with the asymmetrical design and the pullouts. I also think a little bit has to do with the fabric that I chose. Like I said, my last hammock was a 1.1 ounces per square yard material. This is a 1.2, so it's just a little bit firmer. But I believe that the asymmetrical design just keeps this hammock awesome at night. As you can see, I'm not laying like a banana, so a banana would be like this. A lot of people start like this, but I'm moving my feet over into this pulled out corner of the asymmetrical design. And I basically am completely flat in this thing. It is so unbelievably comfortable that I can sometimes sleep 9 to 10 hours in this thing without waking up once. So another thing for me, I think it's easier to actually sleep on your side with the asymmetrical design of the Darien. And I think they did a good job. I'm sure it has a lot to do with the length and the width that I chose for the hammock, but I just want to reiterate that this hammock is super comfortable for sleeping in it overnight. And I do have a lot of nights in this thing. Now, your night's sleep is greatly going to depend on how you hang your hammock. For me, in this hammock, I like my foot end about 6 inches higher than my head end. So I always adjust that. And what that does for you, it makes sure your body doesn't keep sliding down at night. So you're utilizing the full length of your hammock if you raise your foot end up. So this is where I sleep. I keep my shoulder right by that asym pull-out, and that has been just absolutely perfect for a great night's sleep. Let's talk about using underquilts on this Dream Hammock Darien. Now for me, I've used not only a full-length underquilt, but also a 3/4 length underquilt. With the full-length underquilt, I have noticed that it's just easier to remove the foot end pull-out so your feet can stay in the underquilt. If you keep it there, you're gonna have a hard time positioning. You may want to just leave the pull-out very, very loose, or like I said, take it off altogether, because my feet sometimes fall out. As you can see, I'm in the hammock right here. The pullouts are attached to the hammock, and you can see that my feet are in the underquilt. However, if you move around a lot, you might find yourself on the, I guess, the suspension of the underquilt. I recommend personally going really tight with the suspension on the underquilt and then doing a very loose pullout on the Dream Hammock. Okay, so here's a 3/4 length underquilt. And what I like to do is I like to take the pull out and put it underneath of the underquilt suspension. That way, you know, my butt would be right here, my feet would be right here, and it really doesn't get in the way at all, as you can see. You know, the pull out here is perfectly compatible. So like I said, it's not gonna matter if you take it on or take it off. It's just a matter of preference. For me, when I'm using a full-length underquilt, I do like to take the foot pull out, but when I'm using a 3/4 length underquilt, you can see again that there's no compatibility issues here at all. So it works out really well. Another thing we should talk about is how roomy this hammock is. Even with an underquilt like we have on right now, you can see that we just have a ton of room. As you can see, I have an underquilt on right now, so it is even bringing the fabric in closer to me, but you know, I can wave around in here. I can sit up, you know, my head just barely touches the bug netting, but you know, it is just so freaking roomy in here, and it's a wonderful, wonderful feature. They really did a good job, especially if you get the pull-outs. Like I said, without the pull-outs, it's gonna be more like this. It's gonna be kind of on your face like that, which is why I opted for that extra couple inches that you do get with the pull-outs, which is why I like them so freaking much. So I can get to my ridgeline organizer easily up here, throw it behind my head, which is where I usually put it, and get in and out. Very, very simple. So let's talk about the quality of the hammock design. I have found no issues with stitching or material abrasion or things coming undone that shouldn't. I've had absolutely no problems, with the exception of the custom fabric choice that I chose for my bug net. Now, I originally said at the beginning of this video that I had a 0.67 ounce per square yard bug netting. Their stock is 0.8 ounces per square yard. I really, really do not recommend that you choose this custom option. Keep it the stock 0.8. What I was realizing after only 4 nights out in this, that the bug netting was actually starting to come undone because of my ridgeline and my ridgeline organizer. Not only that, but my head pressing down over here was actually starting the fabric, the bug net, to actually start to pull and stretch in this area right here. So I had a bad experience with a custom option that I chose. When I talked to the owner, Randy, aka Papa Smurf, he was very adamant that I be very, very careful with the bug netting. And although he did recommend it, he did say that it would probably and more than likely wear out over time. Now, I am a person that is very, very careful with their gear, and I did experience a ton of abrasion on the bug net material itself. I even had a zipper snag right at the bottom of this ASIM pullout, and I had to have them put a patch kit basically right here with the same material. So again, I absolutely 100% do not recommend you go any lower than the stock netting. It may work for you, it may not, but my experiences was absolutely terrible. Dream Hammock doesn't even offer custom bug netting options. I actually emailed them directly and was trying to work with them for some new custom options. Another thing we talked about was just using Zing-It for the ridgeline, but the weight savings you get over Zing-It or an Amsteel, it just wasn't worth it to me. And I think when I got the new hammock, the bug net only saved me about an ounce. And so I wouldn't recommend it. So this hammock weighs 477 grams, which is what, 16.82 ounces. Just did that completely in my head. And that is including the suspension, the polyester straps, the continuous loops, everything you see here, plus the cordage for the pullouts. So I was able to get this hammock pretty darn light, keeping in mind that I'm using the lightest fabric they have, and I went with a 61-inch width and a 10-foot length. So just keep that in mind. But this hammock is really, really light, and I think I would have a hard time finding something that was this light again. So the quality of this hammock is absolutely amazing. The design of this hammock is amazing. I've had no issues with comfort or sleeping in it at night as long as it was set up correctly, and I think Dream Hammock does an absolutely amazing job on their hammocks just based on my experience with this model. And I would definitely recommend them to a friend and would use them again for a future purchase. Now, the only thing that I could possibly complain about here is the zipper. You may want to get a better quality zipper. I haven't had any issues with it, but here's the thing. Whenever I'm in a hurry and I'm just going around, sometimes it just feels like the teeth are dragging whenever you're zipping it up. When you're unzipping it, it's fine. Now, what I've done with this is I heated up some candle wax. Basically, you just run it on the zipper, you heat it up. It does offer some kind of lubrication. I heard Vaseline also works. Another plus side of using wax, at least for me, it made my zipper quieter. But as you can see, it's still pretty loud. Now, I do have to reapply the wax, but I think if I were to buy this Dream Hammock again, I probably would have them sew a higher quality zipper on. Now, I'm not sure what they're using on this, but I've had a lot of snags occur down on this area because it's pulled out. So if you think that the zipper issue that I just told you about will be something that would bother you, I'm sure that you could work with Randy and Deanna from Dream Hammock, and they would be able to solve the issue and put a higher quality or a better or a different type of zipper on. Now, this issue really isn't a big issue, but I always try to find at least one thing I would change if I ever bought the product again. And if I were to change anything, it would definitely be the zipper. So with that, what is my final review on the Dream Hammock Darien? I absolutely love it. This is the hammock that's going to be with me on the Appalachian Trail. It's been officially decided. I sleep incredibly well in it. The quality is amazing, the design is amazing, and it's really, really light because of the options and the additions and the mods that I've chosen to do to this hammock. So everybody, if the Dream Hammock Darien is something that you're interested in and would like to purchase, I'm actually pleased to offer that I've been working with Dream Hammock for a 10% off coupon excluding shipping. So that coupon is Outdoor Adventures 10, and that'll get you, like I said, 10% off excluding shipping. I believe the coupon runs until 10/1, so you have a couple weeks to order your Dream Hammock and get that discount. And like I said, I've had no problems with them. I think they're an amazing company. They got a great product here, and I would definitely order from them again. So guys, if you have any questions or concerns, be sure to let me know in the comments section, and I'll be glad to get back to you. Find time and go on your own adventures. I'll see you on the trail. The length of your hammock. Man, these airplanes, they just drive me nuts. It is so hard to film a review out here. It's insane. And we gotta wait for this plane. Why do I live near the airport again? Definitely be the zipper. Okay, seriously, I'm trying to film here, bro.